Hey guys, welcome to another episode of All Bass Creations, Effects, Tutorials, Demos, and Review. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Sorry about the little mic noise there, but let's go ahead and get this rocking and rolling. All right, so what's going on, folks? Appreciate that. So I want you guys to understand something here. These pedals, I keep trying to tell you guys, the Enzo X, man, is an incredible pedal. So the tracking on the pedal is just exceptional for a lot of reasons. So let me see what this is on. What is that on? Need that to be a little quieter, but it is what it is. So we actually have Enzo X up here. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. We have the amp envelope section here, which is essentially the thing that shapes the synth sound itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to completely change this filter and all that stuff. So we're going to change the filter to where it's just pretty much open. All the way open with no filter envelope amount. No resonance. We're also going to take off any drive and any ambience and also any modulation there. So now we're just getting, we're going to turn off any modulation depth. So that's the sound we're working from there. So already, you know, starting to get into that territory. But let's break down, before we get to the ADSR section of it. And this is going to take, we're going to work in just the mono synth right now because we're just talking bass synth, right? So typically with bass synth, let's go ahead and switch over to the pedal board view here, by the way. So yeah, that way you guys can get a much better view. And hit that like button while you're here hanging out with me and all that good stuff. You know what I'm saying? Hit them reactions for me. If you got any questions that's on topic, you know, I'll try to answer them and all that good stuff. So, all right. So with a bass synth, the first thing is the oscillators, right? So we're going to start with just one oscillator. And we're going to make that a triangle wave. See if that's even audible right now. What did I turn off? Oh, there we go. So as you can hear there, it's just pretty much just all bottom, right? I got to bring the level of this up. Right, that's so that's going to be our bottom waveform there. And what we're going to do, we're going to just add another waveform an octave above that. And so I did a triangle wave there and a square wave on top. So both of those have a good amount of bass. So essentially without the sustain, say I had no sustain level or no anything, right? Take everything off, turn everything down on the amp envelope. So the attack, the decay, the sustain, and the release are all on 0. So I get no sound. Yeah, I appreciate that. Appreciate that. If you're not hip, you know, I'm on Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all that good stuff. Facebook at the Bass Nagas. So make sure you follow me on all those platforms. You'll see different clips, or you know, all the shorter clips of my live streams are on the short YouTube shorts and those platforms. So check them out when you get a chance if you don't always catch the live. But anyway, so typically, so attack, decay, sustain, and release. And on here, we actually have a release time, which is very useful for other applications. But for right now, you just want to max this out. max that out, bam. So now the level, we bring the sustain level up. So that's just pure sustain. As you can hear, it's just you playing the note. There's no attack or decay on it. You know, there's no release or none of that. And for this, you know, the note persist on here on the Enzo X is going to make all the world of a difference. So I actually like, for bass synths on here, I like to have it around 11 seconds. It's been working out really well. Gives me a nice amount of sustain, right? As long as I hold that note. And it even decays with you. So if you it's even responsive to your volume. So, and just so you have a clue, this is what my bass sounds like without it. And it's actually transposed right now. I'm about to untranspose that real quick. That means 25% should be what I want on here. I'm not sure why it's not. The thing is, you gotta do a bit of math with this thing when you have certain parameters mapped. I'm just gonna unmap this for now. I'll come back and get this. There we go. So, yeah. So now we'll just go back to, to the oscillator section here. I know my hand gets in the way, guys. I can't really help it. Gotta change the knob too. So we're gonna take this down -12. And let's shift this down. So a lot of times I actually like to have the unison pitch. So unison pitch, I want it to be the square on here. And I want it to be the triangle on bottom because the triangle has that really fat bottom to it. So just using just the sustain is what actually a lot of the bass synths are made out of. When you watching guys like Anthony Marinelli, I hope I'm saying that right. Told you guys I'm terrible with names, but you know, it's really just the ADSR, of course, is the attack, decay, and sustain and release. So from here, if we go back to the amp envelope section, which is the envelope section that determines what that sound does, we can fade it in with the attack time, or if we take out the sustain and do all decay, we can get to a sound that really fades out a lot, right? But if we want just a pluckier sound, right? So really short, but we can also increase that. And this is just the decay, no attack, no sustain, no release. So immediately it goes to the maximum value and then decays. Now if we add the attack in there, some attack, it'll fade in and fade out. Because we don't have any sustain, right? So now if we add some sustain in there just a little bit, it'll fade in with the attack to the maximum value, and then it will decay all the way from that volume all the way to where the sustain level is. And then it just stays there. So if we bring this level down even more, you'll really hear it dramatically. And of course, when there's no more note, then you add a little more level. We can make that decay 0, right? And it'll just fade in and stay at that level. Oh, gotta bring the sustain time up. So now we add the decay time in there. 2 seconds of decay. You see it's gonna fade down to that sustain level and just stay there until I release it. Now if I add release, when I release the key or release the note, it will add additional sustain. Now on here, the release doesn't it doesn't always trigger on when you're playing the bass for some reason. I know. Let me do something real quick. Bam, 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 bam. Take this off of here. That's why. All right, so we're going. So for some reason, this is something they can fix with an update as well. The release isn't always triggering for the bass when I'm releasing the note. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about over here on the Future Impact. Let me see. Find that. I think it's number 8. That bouncier sound. See, all I'm doing is, right? Yeah, it's even though I'm playing short, it's still after I'm playing the note, the synth keeps going, right? So what that essentially allows you to do is have those bouncier sounds. right? So over here, I can't really get that same effect. But if I don't want the sound to fade in, it'll immediately decay to that sustain level. So it goes to the maximum level and just decays to that sustain level. Right, so that's what I would worry about with the bass synths on the Enzo X, is that attack, decay, and sustain of this. Now, when it comes to the keyboard, like I said, the sustain the release is still active. So this is the best way I've found to do it with the Enzo X. Have your, turn off everything and then come to your amp envelope section. If you just want to try out some waveforms, right? Just set the level to 100, maximum amount of sustain time. Because ultimately that's what when you press a note on the keyboard, it's just going to sustain. Right, but if I didn't want it to do that, and it just stops after that certain amount of time. So maximum sustain on that allows you to pretty much be able to hold that note as long as your bass will ring out. So start there. Start with just full sustain, no release, no attack, right? And this is similar to the Future Impact has the exact same setup in terms of attack, decay, sustain, and release, right? Except for the release is active when you're playing your bass through the Future Impact, which is not really super important for playing bass stuff, to be honest. And this may just be in mono synth mode. This is in mono synth mode right now, in case I didn't say that. So again, triangle on the bottom, square on the top. Now you can experiment with different stuff here. You can do 2 triangles, but that ain't gonna get you much harmonic content. Triangle in the saw, or the classic, super classic setup is that square on the bottom and that saw on top. But on here, like I said, the triangle provides a nice smooth bottom. All right. So again, if you want a sound to fade in, you got to use some attack time. If you want a sound to fade in and then, drop down a little bit, like even think of like boom would be a good example of it. You hear orchestra go like boom and crescendo in it. That's pretty much what most of that attack, if you know attack, boom, and then some decay down to the sustain level, boom, would be the sustain level. So now we got the filter to deal with. So we got a low pass filter here. We want to bring this cutoff down. Let's do this. See, instantly got smoother. resonance, like I would say mostly 20-30% keeps you a nice smooth bass. Now if I want this filter, the ADSR, to sweep above the cutoff, right, I will go positive on the filter envelope amount. So right, and let me come over here to the ADSR, and it's the same thing for the filter envelope, right? So if I want that filter to fade in to get to that, from that filter cutoff to what I have the filtered envelope amount, see that attack time on that filter is giving it that wow. Now I can have it do that and have it fade into that frequency and then have it sweep down to where the sustain level is. Let's bring that. So let's do no decay. See, there's no attack on it now, but it decays to that sustain level. So from here, we just keep shaping the filter if we want. So now we're literally getting identical sounds out of the bass and the and of course we're going to bring that volume up. We're going to add some bottom to that and all that good stuff. So let's deal with this filter a little more. So if we go negative, it'll sweep below it. So if we bring this filter cutoff up a bit, now this filter envelope amount, because we're going negative, will close and open. But now it's going below the frequency cutoff versus when you have it in the positive, it's going above where I have the frequency cut off without any frequency envelope amount, meaning without making it modulate or move to sweep the filter. The filter doesn't have any movement now. So I can make it. So I think that's two things that I've really had to wrap my mind around. The filter cutoff and the filter envelope amount, because the filter envelope amount pretty much determines how much in which direction that the filter interacts with the ADSR, essentially. So again, if I wanted to sweep, I have to go from the filter cutoff up to another frequency and come back down. Then I'll go with a positive. If I wanted to sweep down and come back up from the frequency cutoff. So now it's dipping below that cutoff point and coming back up, versus in the positive, it sweeps above it and comes back down to it. So, see? Versus. Or if I'm real dramatic. See what I'm saying? So that's super important with your filter, understanding those, and then, you know, adding some resonance is definitely going to make it get you that squawky feel. Right? But if I wanted more, say I wanted. Hear that bottom on that joint? Yeah. See, I didn't want it to sweep down as much. And as you can see, the filter has a tremendous amount to do with the sound. Like, make sure you hit that like button for me. It greatly helps me out. And hit that subscribe, subscribe if you haven't already. Helps me out a lot too. And hit the hype button, them reactions. I definitely appreciate you. Make sure you check out Patreon. All my preset packs, all this stuff. Say you don't want food with all this programming and stuff, or all these different pedals or pedals you have, including things like the Zoom B6, Zoom MS70 CDR Plus, Zoom MS60B Plus. Check out all my preset packs on Patreon, as well as if you want to support the channel. And Cash App and Super Chats are always open. I appreciate it. So, all right. So the filter, again, is going to determine that, a lot of those factors. And the main thing that's going to determine that is the ADSR for the filter. So that determines the shape. You could think of this, the filter cutoff. Let's just put that to 0 real quick. So say I wanted to control this myself. Now it's just stagnant, right? So oh, that's just straight up synth, you know, that's everything 50 and below. We're going to open this filter amount a bit. And the frequency just boosts the resonance. The resonance of a filter is just essentially with emphasizing the frequencies around the filter cutoff, whatever frequency you have this cutting. So if I have a lot of this, right, seeing that low end, bring that resonance out, it's not there. But if I need all that, so you don't need too much of that. This keeps the filter nice and smooth. What's going on, folks? So say I wanted to sweep between those two. So the filter settings is pretty much everything. And that's not just for the Enzo X. That includes the MXR bass synth, which does have 3 oscillator voices to play around with. So even if we just take the same formula, well, we can't take the same exact formula, but let's say we put 2 square waves together on here. Let's open this filter up. Let's take everything out pretty much. And filter envelope amount is accessed through holding the voice button here. If we put it to noon, it's the same thing as in the Enzo X. But of course the main Enzo X and the MXR bass synth are nowhere near on the same level, so don't even ask me. Don't even ask me about that, because I like the MXR bass synth, and when y'all ask me them comparison questions, that's when it seems like I don't. And I actually like the pedal a lot. So that's pretty much like an open sound of the filter, no resonance, no modulation. So that's always where you want to start with stuff, guys. Always start with the oscillators, because that's what's going to make the huge difference in there. So right now I just got all just one octave. Here's the sub octave. And if we want to, only thing that we can control as far as a ADSR on the MXR bass synth is the fade in time, the attack time. So that's the only part of it that you could control. So you know, you're very limited on while the MXR bass synth is easily accessible for a lot of players that don't understand synth. If you just take a bit of time and understand how to manipulate a synth pedal or an actual synth, because it's the same on here as the plugins on your computer and actual real synths. It's just real synths, you may have to use actual patch cables to attach things, while in digital, you just have to assign it to certain things. So back to it. So, and that's, you know, if you want to give it like that little, you know, that'll definitely help you get in that territory. So we'll bring that back down, because of course we want the bass synth to respond as soon as we play a note, right? So no attack time. So pretty much no attack time, no decay, and it's all sustained, just like I showed you on the Enzo X. Same thing. If I take out the filter envelope, not gonna be the same sound, but you'll see what I'm saying. No resonance and no decay, no attack, just all sustain. Right, and same thing there. I'll actually bring the, where is it, the output? I think it's, trying to remember everything in the word. Okay, yeah, it's here. And that output came down on this MXR. They got that gain hot on it. Yes, the MIDI controller here is actually mapped to all the MIDI pedals here. So the pedals I have on MIDI is Mercury X, Enzo X, Pog 3, and the Future Impact. And these three can all be played with a MIDI controller. So underneath here is a CME H4 MIDI Pro. It's the bigger version of this. And pretty much that does all the routing. And then I have the Graviton M1 linked to that for all my presets of the various pedals together. And then I have a foot switch down, 10 foot switches down bottom that match the Luminite, and also have a MIDI Captain, which is another 10 foot switches down bottom. This is the main board here, guys. This is my auxiliary board for extra sounds in the studio, but this is the gigging board here. So, so essentially no movement happening there, just like here. So none of them sound particularly awesome without filters. Let's hear some of the other waveforms here. And that is the triangle square saw. So for me, the square wave is a nice compromise between the two on that. And basically, you bring this filter cutoff down, get it in that bass territory, add some resonance, emphasize some of those. There we go. See, whole different sound now. Now we add in some of this filter envelope amount by holding down the voice knob. Am I holding it down? Good. Okay. Come on. And use this envelope knob to shape the envelope of the filter. Same thing here. You put it on the negative side of the filter envelope, which is below noon. Dips down, opens up. You put it above. Goes open and closes. Above the frequency cutoff. So, and then closes. So again, just so we understand the frequency, the filter envelope amount, right? Positive on the positive side or above noon. If it's positive, if it's numbers on here, it's positive or negative. On here, it's above noon, and below noon is negative, right? So if it's above noon, it's gonna go above that frequency cutoff, right? And how much of that is determined by how far you have it on that positive side. And then it opens, it goes above that frequency cutoff and close. When it's in the negative side of the filter envelope amount, it goes below the frequency cutoff that you set with this knob, right? Or on here, goes below that and then comes back up. So it does that ow versus if that same frequency ow, like it's a different sound. So that's super important. See what we got here. No, I haven't tried any of the Chase Bliss stuff. You know, pretty much most of the sounds I've heard I could get with the Mercury X. So I haven't bothered to even get it, to be honest. Most ambient stuff I've heard with different pedals, I pretty much can pull off the same thing with the Mercury X. So that's why. And I definitely appreciate you chiming into the channel. It means a lot, man. If you're not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Been building my first real, more serious bass pedal, basically setup. Well, nothing's overkill in music, you know what I'm saying? You can use it. If you're not using it, sell it, get something else. You know what I'm saying? That's how the game go. I wouldn't have all this stuff. I'd be a huge hypocrite if I was like, hey, you got too much gear. I don't think you can have too much gear. I mean, I've seen, my father was an AC and heating engineer, and he never had too many tools. You can never have too many tools, bro. All these are my tools. I can't have too many tools now. Plus, you just, if you do music for a living like I do, you just write it off on your taxes. It's it's part of making music. It's what you need to continue to make music. You know what I'm saying? You need inspiration. You need these different sounds for different scenarios. So let's go. Yes, this is the Mercury X. It is you think the Enzo X got a lot of stuff in it for a synth pedal. This is the most advanced reverb pedal I've ever seen. And it's another always on pedal because I can, you got full stereo compressor and limiter in there, plus preamps, and preamps can be used for distortion and overdrive as well. You also got filters in there, and so you can throw on a high pass filter on your bass and things like that. So the Mercury X, I've done a ton of videos on as well. But yeah, this blue in here, Enzo X, Pog 3, Tone X1s, Future Impact, Empress, Jam Man Solo as my HD as my looper. So, all right. But we start adding that filter, and then now we get to our bass tones. Say I wanted to do something slightly different with that, right? Find out where I want this frequency. Now I'm gonna make the filter sweep below that. This really has a huge effect on that filter. Bring that gain up a little bit. Back down a little bit. So, you know, even with the MXR bass synth, you don't have a full ADSR. You only got an A. You just got a tack, right? So you can still use that to your advantage. More sub in there. Or no sub. So, you know, depending on, typically for bass synths, you're going to want to have that ADSR with no attack, no decay, just all sustain, no release. But like I said, there's different occasions for different things. Now, like I said, with something like the MXR bass synth, when you really start to learn about synth, you see how restricted it can be, you know, in terms of you can't really, other than fading in, you can't really do much with the sound in that capacity, you know, like the oscillators. All right, we good. But, you know, you got to use all the same oscillators too, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't mix and match them to do different things compared to the Enzo X. You know, I have two oscillators there I can manipulate. And in poly mode, while it is while it is 2 oscillators, like in poly mode, you can play up to 6 notes. So each of those notes has a different oscillator and filter envelope with them if you assign it with the aftertouch, right? So meaning you can have up to 12 oscillators at once to create all those different sounds, you know? So you got to kind of look at it a little differently. Each note is 2 oscillators. So, and oscillators are the things like the saw wave, you know, the triangle, and the square waves. So, which these 2 have in common, you know. And of course, this one is this, and the Enzo X and the MXR bass synth they're not even in the same ballpark. So, you know, it's okay that this, in terms of price, you know, this is twice as much. This is about $600. This is about $289. So, you know, and this is about, the Future Impact is like $350 if you get it from Panda Audio's site. So, you know, for what it is, the MXR bass synth is not a bad pedal at all. And it actually, if you don't know what you're doing with synth, adding all these controls and all the controls you have here is just really going to confuse you. So, you know, that's something else to consider. But yeah, essentially, you can take that sound, just change waveforms. So on here, like I said, you got more of a options with the filter than anything, and you know, and mixing these oscillators. You can also add in a little noise there too. So you can get some real nice stuff just changing once you know how to really manipulate each pedal. You know, you won't be sending pedals back so fast. You know, and all this applies similar to the C4 synth here as well. The C4 synth, one of the main differences would be it has presets for the ADSR, right? And it only has a certain amount of control for each of those presets for you to change for the ADSR. But you do get 2 of them, right? So you can assign one to the filter, and then you can have a whole different ADSR for the oscillators, right? So 2 different, or you can have different oscillators going to different ADSRs, you know, 2 different ADSRs, you know, splitting it up that way. It's a lot of little options that you have with something like the C4 synth. You know, you still got the apps and all that stuff. And one thing I want people to understand about synth pedals, and this is one of the things that they, you know, I saw a lot in the comment sections about the MXR bass synth. You do not need a lot of live control when you're using a bass synth. I know that's not going to sink in with a lot of people because they really don't know how to use a bass synth. But really, with these presets and stuff, your stuff should already be set up before you ever get to the gig. If you're on a gig, only thing you really should be manipulating is maybe like some of the filter to do like a cool filter sweep or something, or something like that. But other than that, I mean, that's stuff you can set up through, if you have the right type of synth pedal, you can set all that up through MIDI. You know, I have sustain pedal set up through here so I can sustain the future impact. The filter cutoffs, you know, are all mapped to CC messages. So if I want to mess with the cutoff and create like a wah effect, I can do that as well. But you want to set this stuff up at home, bro. Like, don't get on a gig feeling with it. That's how you're going to get fired. Like you will get fired on a gig trying to build a bass synth. Like, that's kind of crazy. Like, so you don't actually need access to a lot of these controls here as much. Like, even with the Enzo X, all that stuff is super available in here. But I'm not on a gig bending down doing anything. I might change the level, but other than the level of it, I'm not going in and changing nothing. I'm playing. I'm concentrating on what I'm doing, so that makes a huge difference. Now that we kind of see how the filter and all that kind of works for different pedals and how it can affect the sound, right? We don't want it to just die off like that, so we're gonna bring that lower frequency up. Mind you, we can adjust volumes and stuff later. See, we got here. I'd invest in a looper switcher system if you think you need to mess with things live. Yep. I mean, even then, you don't need to mess with stuff live. Like, it's just not necessary in terms of like the individual presets. I'm not talking about mix and matching effects pedals, nothing like that. So if you don't have a MIDI or like a looper switcher incorporated, you will have to tap dance. But I'm talking about like on stage, I'm doing what I'm doing now, which is things that should be done before, experimenting, trying to get to the exact sound that I'm looking for. You know, that's stuff that has to be done before. I want deep. I want to add. There we go. And with these, the Enzo X, you also have things like the oscillator width, which for square waves, turns the square wave, the more you turn it on, turns it into a pulse wave, while with the saw and the triangle wave, it adds extra harmonics to it. So I just added some extra harmonics to the triangle wave. just to get that filter. Something else to grab on to. Now we gotta So now you right on board with the key bass sounds that you would produce. So that's literally me switching back and forth between the Enzo X, and it does it automatically, so it's not like I have to go in and switch anything. In the Future Impact, you have to hold down this on and off switch. It'll say GLB, which stands for global. Press program to enter the global menu. Then you need to change the category of the global. You need to go to note off level. And when you're ready to change the actual parameter, you do that here. So, bam. And then you press enter and it goes back. So, like, I'll leave it back on bass. And then, bam, I'm back. Can play bass, of course. And also, because I have mine set up, I have the EQ set up last in the chain on here. So, if I got a little too much bottom on it, pretty much the EQ tilt. So that's actually my fault. So even there, that ADSR there is just all sustain. It's just straight on. So no attack, no decay, no release. Actually, a little bit of release on that. Yeah, see, that's no release. This got a bit of release on it. So, yeah, they're supposed to be improving the tracking for the Future Impact V4 VIP. The tracking's not bad now, but It's not bad at all. None of these synth pedals actually track bad. Like, I can honestly say the C4 synth is probably the least of them, but even that will track just fine as long as you're playing, you know, more towards the pedal. And it's really not towards the pedal. Even when people playing synth bass, they're not typically, you know, da 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 da. Like, a lot of times we're trying to play. Most of the time, people are not playing like that on synth bass, so it doesn't, you know, that's why you're getting like weird results, you know. See, I can just sustain that. That's cool. That's why you gotta use your MIDI. I ain't even have to keep playing it or nothing. But yeah, so let me see what we got. Definitely appreciate y'all stopping by, you know. Appreciate y'all stopping by as usual. All the usual suspects coming in. Porch Bass came in. Appreciate all y'all, man. Y'all definitely keep the channel going. You know what I'm saying? Feel free, chat and all that good stuff. Yeah, I don't really like switching the order of my pedals. I really, that is actually something I do the least. You see pedals come in and out, but you really notice I really don't change my pedal order. But that's why I have these. So the reason I never have to change my pedal order like right now is because I have everything in the correct order already. And having it in a different order isn't going to give me any results. You know, having a looper switcher is just going to do what? Exactly. You know, most of my, so compression, this is all my preamps. I don't need these to go in and out. I just need to switch them. So that's done on these pedals. Normally when I'm gigging like this, I can reach both of these at the same time, and I have access to the 3 preamps I need for anything, essentially. Then the synth pedals, all these pedals are pretty much multi-effects pedals. This is the least of them, multi-effects wise, but you know, the Future Impact has chorus and distortion and all that stuff, overdrive. Of course, all the synth sounds, but, you know, I don't even have to change order. If I don't want to use the distortion there, I can use it up here, or I can use the distortion here, or I can use it here. So all these have various effects in them already, so switching the order wouldn't do anything for me. I have MIDI where I have presets, so, you know, there's no world where I would need the POG to be after the Enzo X. You see what I'm saying? Is no world where I need that. There's no world where I need the Mercury X before the Enzo X. That doesn't make sense in the order. So like everything is laid out logically to where switching things through MIDI is going to allow me to do everything I need to do. So like my whole first page here is bam. Just a clean bass sound. Envelope filter. Chorus. Flanger. And mind you, the Enzo X, all these other synth pedals are, and well, the other synth pedals plus the POG 3 are all running into the Enzo X. So all this chorus, phaser, flanger, envelope filters, all that stuff, I can put them on either one of these. And so only thing running between these is the Tone X1s, and that's so because when I have things here, like for instance, if I'm running pads, I want those to run through the Tone X1s. I might want to run it through a Marshall amp. Or I may want to run it through the the Color Box V2. Run it through a different EQ of the Color Box V2. See, if you build it right, a lot of times people are experimenting with pedal order because they really don't know what order gets them the most possibilities. So for me, like having octavers and things like that, so typically before I got into synth pedals, if I was just using individual effects pedals, you always want to have like either you're going straight into an octavers or you're going straight into a compressor into the octavers, you know. And I also have compressors on these other pedals too. Like, so I got compression and delay, chorus, modulations and reverbs on here, filters and detune and attack on here as well, along with the octaves. And everything's laid out in a order where I'll never have to change this order, because if I need the effect in a different area of the board, I have it on a different pedal in that area of the board. And I hope that's making sense. But yeah, that's why I don't use a MIDI looper switcher. I thought about going that route. If I had stayed with more pedals like this side of the board, then I would have, you know. But other than that, it's just a whole nother set of MIDI commands that you have to set up. And then you would still have to set up the presets for the channels for these pedals. So I just keep most of my pedals MIDI capable, and then I don't need to actually do a MIDI looper switcher. You know what I'm saying? Because, bam. I also use these passive ones as well. So this is actually a passive looper here. So this side of the board runs into here. This was $40. You ain't gonna beat that. This joint was $40. And it has three monos effects loops essentially, and when none of them are engaged, it goes straight from this input to this output and into this board. So essentially all this is bypass right now, and this is actually all that you're hearing. And all these pedals actually have true bypass, and only thing is because I'm running the Enzo X and the Mercury X stereo, they aren't they're running buffered bypass. So that's something else to consider. But their buffer bypass doesn't affect your tone at all. Like, I actually enjoy the tones I get through it. Yeah, definitely don't overcomplicate your setup. Make it as simple as possible. That's the main thing. When I'm gigging, I actually only need this board, the foot switches, and I don't even really need to touch this board too much. I just need my 10 foot switches, change everything through the MIDI looper. So if I need to do that, or if I need to go back to my regular bass sound, if I need to get to, you know, playing keys, and that is the Enzo X. If you need a little organ, just use the Hog 3. And just like the Enzo X, I still have access to be able to play. I can actually play them both at the same time, MIDI and play the actual octave sounds in there. So that's the cool thing about the POG 3. You don't even have to, it's automatic as well, switching between bass and keys, and you can still, it's the only one actually you can play both simultaneously. Like the actual Leslie sound is a tremolo on the Mercury X. And the chorus is from the Enzo X. See what I'm saying? Like when you have it set up in a like the most logical order possible, you won't have to do any moving the stuff around. Like that was my main goal. I mean, that's always my main goal when I build every pedal board. I'm not moving nothing, you know, until I change the whole board. Like I don't do move this pedal from here to there. Nah. if filters go in a certain place for me, distortions go in a certain place. Distortion for me is 9 times out of 10 gonna go before the filter. Like 9 times out of 10. There's very few exceptions. And in this case, this is my main filter pedal, right? If I want to add distortion or overdrive, I can do it from here. Or I can do it from here. You know what I'm saying? Because the Tone X1s are in between the Enzo X and the Mercury X. So Empress compressor, future impact into the MXR bass synth, POG 3. Out of here, from here on, we're going stereo into the Enzo X, and then down to the Tone X1s, to the Mercury X, and then to the Jam Man Solo HD. That's where, you know what I'm saying, you're going to get all that extra stuff out of it. Yeah, and well, for the CDs, all that for a gig. No, this is my only gigging board here. I don't even need to take this unless I need to do vocoder. If I need to do vocoder or something like that, you know, then yeah. But even on my strings and keys sounds, you know, I can pretty much get from this rig. And this rig is also tied to my iPad, by the way. So my iPad I'm running a MIDI out of here down to the X-Tone Pro, which is the audio interface I use for my iPad. So I can come here, so now I got the POG 2 and the EP from the iPad. And on the iPad, I'm using Neo Soul keys. I can, of course, use the Enzo X. And thanks to, you know, digital technology in the Neo Soul app, I actually have a full rack mount in there that I can put effects on, and it has some great effects in there for keys. So, by the EP by itself, and I'm just running from the headphone out of the audio interface into the auxiliary end of the looper here, and what that allows me to do is pretty much when I want to loop EP stuff. I don't know why my looper keeps doing this. You know, if I want to. Is right there. So now I don't have to, I can have separate layers. We even got piano. So it's just all incorporated into one rig. No, you're not asking too many questions. I want you guys to ask questions, give your opinions, or ask, or see why I'm doing things or why I'm not doing things. That's why we're here. We're here to learn and all, I'm here to share. Make sure that you guys, any information I have or any explanation I could give you that would help you along your way, and based on the knowledge I have, I don't mind giving it to you guys. So let me see what we got here, so I don't miss out on these. I'm getting quite a few questions. I don't want to miss you guys. All right, cool. See, I'm digging in the MIDI. I went too far back. Saw a question here. What are the Tonex presets you got loaded right now? Okay, I went over that. Yeah. I'm just using right this second. This one is two Color Box V2 tone models and one Marshall tone model. So I used one of the Marshall amps that was already on the tone net and stuff, and then I created two presets for my JHS color box because I couldn't have stereo color boxes, right? Because buying two color boxes is like $900, right? So I took the color box I had, made some tone models, and put them on two Tone X1s. And so I have one setting for chords, and this other brighter setting is for bass or more scoop sound. And then I have the Marshall amp for when I want to do some solo stuff. So it's just so much easier having everything like that, because you hit that and then you hit whatever preset you want to go to from there. So it takes a while to set up your MIDI stuff, but once you set it up and then you get your presets right, you don't have to worry about the setup is already modular as it is, you know what I'm saying? Essentially, I don't need to move anything. I just need to change which device I'm pretty much choosing the effect from. So if I need an octaver, like I have now, and I need an envelope filter, or if I need a phaser, let me see what else we got here. Yeah, for sure. Like, you gotta watch the channel mode. Do you use all that? Yep, I answered that. Bam. Yeah, having that keyboard is amazing because you can always choose to lay down different loops. Plus, I got EP and piano in the iPad, and then I essentially got 2 different routes for the piano and for all of this stuff. So all my pads, organs, string sounds, all that stuff is coming from here. Brass sounds. Trying to tell you, learn how to use your synth pedals, folks. And this is a string sound I designed on the Enzo X. So yes, you can get the color box presets on Patreon. The Marshall preset is already free on the when you have the Tonex stuff. So you just would have to I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head, but if you play around with them, you'll tend to get some good results, see which ones you like and don't like. Let me see. No, those not. I don't use too many. That's only ones presets in here that I use that aren't mine is that Marshall one. Like all these other presets are available on my Patreon. So even ones like the combination ones, like for instance, here is the Ampeg SGT. And let's go to a nice bass sound here. Boop. And those are labeled clarity, as you can hear, compared to that other preset there. This one. And I did, so the color box running into an Ampeg SGT, color box running into a Gensler Magellan, color box running into a Gensler, Gens Benz Shuttle 9.0 tube amp, and the list goes on. So it's like 11 different preamps on there separately, and including things like the Laney Dig Beth is on there. And the combination packs as well. So the combination packs are going to be the color box running in 2 different bass preamps, and essentially that's in one tone model. And I did different variations of it, so you'd have some different EQ curves in there and stuff like that would be useful to you, and not just add a whole bunch of mud. A lot of times we hear a bass preset and then you get it and it's just all bottom. It's like, where's all the detail in the sound? You really don't need as much to boost the bass frequencies on bass amps and stuff as much as people think you do, especially if you have an active bass. Yeah. Yeah, you just you gotta find what works for you. It's different preamps sound different, So it's the difference is so I'll go through a couple more. So, different preamps have different textures to them. Get some of this stuff. Bam. So, you got to kind of know how that's a Gens Benz, a color box running into a Gens Benz Shuttle 9.0 versus the Magellan. It's going to have a more smoother, transparent sound versus the tube amp, sound. Which is coloring the sound a lot more. You can also push into the gain. And get it a little dirty. So, you know, I would definitely, when you're, I would say familiarize yourself before even buying preset packs for me for Tonex and stuff, or anybody. Familiarize yourself with the sound of different brands. Like Jens bands and Gensler are not going to sound like an Ampeg. You see what I'm saying? A Mark bass is not going to sound like an Ampeg either, you know. And even with TC Electronic or Eden or all these different companies, they all have different sound signatures that they go with. For instance, Aguilar tends to be a little bit more even. Compared to, say, I put on a B15, tone color box running into the B15. Let's see, get you right on here. All those are totally different sounds, you know. So that's something that you really, you know, I don't just get something because somebody else play it, Victor Wooten or anybody, me, anybody. Like, listen for the way it does saturation and the way it colors your sound. EQ is another thing, but typically the EQ isn't what's really getting you that sound. It's that it's the company's signature sound. Like Ampeg just has a sound to it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to think else who else has that definitive of sound. Like Dark Glass. Dark Glass is another one who has a very direct like sound signature to them. You know, that's actually what I look for. Stuff like the Laney Digbeth doesn't really, it has a sound signature to it, but it's really subtle. Like Aguilar, a lot of people hear Aguilar stuff, they don't really like it because it doesn't color as much as they're used to a bass amp head or a preamp coloring it. You know, especially if you coming from a B15 and then you switch to a Mark bass, that is two completely different sounds. So that's something that you know, take some time. And GK, Gallion Kruger, has a particular sound to their stuff as well. Harkey, you know, all these are different sounds, you know. Definitely take some time and like just listen to, it's hard to sometimes because it's hard to separate the tone of the amp or the preamp from the speakers and from the actual player and their bass. You know what I'm saying? So I know it takes some time, but just as you try out different things, like Ampeg, it has that a real growl to it versus, you know, if you're playing an Aguilar is going to give you that really smooth sound, you know, but a color box is going to give you the sound of a close to a 1073 preamp, which is a really clean studio preamp, right? So that's a whole different sound than all the other preamps that I named. Like, it's a whole different sound even than Aguilar. Aguilar probably be the closest to the color box sound wise, but even those two sound tremendously different. Yeah, definitely. This is the best. Trust and believe. You're getting off a lot lighter than a lot of other people in the past in terms of being able to try out amps. You know, yes, it might have took you a couple dollars, but usually you'd have to buy a whole amp back in the day, you know, or even before stuff like these, you know, the Tonex and stuff like that, or the Quad Cortex. You couldn't take all these preamps with you, and, you know, you didn't have the ability to try out all this stuff without buying the pedal. for me to try out a color box, I had to pay $450. You know what I'm saying? For me to try out the Ampeg SGT, I had to buy the Ampeg SGT. I still have it. Still got my Aguilar AG preamp over there. I still have the majority. Eden WTDI I still have over there. And Gensler Magellan. Mark Bass. Even got a Phil Jones double 4 over there, you know, which has a sound to it. So that's probably my least favorite bass preamp at the moment. But it's a great, that preamp works perfectly for those speakers. You know what I'm saying? In the Phil Jones double 4. That is an amazing little practice amp. I even use it for small acoustic gigs as well, but yeah, that's a whole different story. But yeah, spend some time with the joints. You'll hear the tone of it, and you'll start to recognize the tones of different amps and stuff too. Well, when you take away the cab sim, all the preset sound. So, how are you EQing your bass? Like, they're going to be two different sounds there. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be two different sounds. With the cab sim and without the cab sim, it's definitely going to be two different sounds. All the cab sim pretty much is doing is estimating the EQ curve primarily, and a little bit of acoustics of the room into what, you know, into that IR, right? So the preamp, that preamp is actually, I'm just gonna tell you, be real. That preamp, the preamps are more accurate than those IRs probably are in terms of the sound you want to get to. I don't even, most of the time on here, I'm not using IRs. And the IRs that I've included with the packs and different things at time, those are specially designed and not for a reason. And it took a long time to get those EQ curves to be like that. So trust and believe, I know what you're saying. Now there are some IRs that are actually thin out those preamp sounds. I would say if you're having a trouble with them being thin, how are you EQing your bass? You see what I'm saying? Like I don't have my bass super boosted here like this. If I have my bass flat, right? If I then EQ my bass, and if you're running into a let me see what we got here. So if you're running the, so I have here, tone this. Yeah, and you gotta, if you're used to the sound of a bass amp, then you probably aren't used to the sound of just the preamp by itself. That is something that is different that you have to, you know, you would adjust for that there as well. See what you got here. Bottom. You run into a 115. So are you bypassing the internal preamp of the so when you bypass the IRs, are you running into the effects loop return or the, you know, power amp end of your thing, or are you running into the front of it? Because that makes two different things. I run mine directly into the back of it, and then what you might have to do is adjust your gain or your volume on the actual Tone X1s. Then from there, you can also adjust your EQ. You know what I'm saying? Adjust the EQ of the tone models to fit where you are, because depending on the room you're in, there's a lot of factors when you're listening to things, unless you're listening to them through like headphones and things like that. So if you're playing it through a room and, you know, it could be you're used to also boosting your bass a lot, and when you run that into a recording, you run that to the house, a lot of times sound engineers are just going to cut a lot of that extra bass and stuff that you're adding in there out. That's why your bass a lot of times sound different in the house, because they're accounting for the room. Like, you're just accounting for how you want your bass to sound or feel close by you. So that's something else to take into consideration. Sound engineers actually like it to be flatter, and they'll EQ a lot of that stuff into there too. So but yeah, my man really wants somebody to play the drums. He's funny. I don't know why people want you to do stuff other than what you're doing. I don't know where they do that at, where people just, you know what, you're brand new, you haven't even been, you ain't even a subscriber. Let me stop what I'm doing and play some drums for you. Yeah, right. What are you doing? Weird. The bass amp effects loop, and then I take the DI from there to my DAW. But why are you doing that? Is that the bass? I'm trying to figure out why running into the effects loop if you're just going into your DAW. Why don't you just run it into the DAW, or better yet, just record straight into your DAW and then use the same tone models directly in the DAW, and then you can actually play around with different preamps and stuff. Once you print it onto the track directly, like by recording it that way, you can't do anything else with it in terms of like you can't throw. If you throw more preamps on there, you're just doing more damage essentially. So I would suggest, if you are recording, there's two ways of doing it. If you really like the tone you already have, then and you want to print that, then bam. But if you're working at your house, because if you got the Tone-X pedal, you got the Tone-X plugins as well. So these preamps you record directly into your DAW, and then go back and put the Tone-X tone models on there. Or better yet, what I would actually suggest is, when you record it, you use Amplitude on your bass track, put the tone models on there as the bass amp head, and then use the cabinet simulations in there. You can move the mics around and different stuff like that. That would be a better solution than running to the 15 to record. Now, I will ask you, how are you EQing things? Because I do, like I said, some stuff is for clarity. My bass has a lot of bottom. Like, my bass, I don't have to turn it but just a little bit, and that's really all the bottom I need. So flat bass, or chord, play through the amp, and then when I record, I just start up the DAW and press record without doing anything. So you're gonna get two different sounds that way though. If you do it that way, you're always gonna get a different sound than you're listening to in your room. Like, unless you mic up that cabinet, you're always gonna get two different sounds. And it's only thinner because you're listening to it through a 15, which also has an EQ curve, which is probably scooped, right? So it's going to sound completely different than if you do it that way. That's why in the studio they don't even do it that way no more. Most of the time in the studio they're going to have you run direct. it's impossible for your preamp to sound the same recorded from a DI out and from a mic'd out cabinet. It's just two different sounds. It's two different sounds. There is a volume drop. There is a volume drop. So I said with the Tonex, if you don't have everything set up accordingly with the Tonex, including the input trim, as well as you may have to boost the main volume of the tone model when you're running cabinets. But the sound of it coming through a cabinet is not going to be the same as running through the DI out. It's just two different sounds. Actually, a lot of times you can blend those two sounds. Just take like a SM57 or whatever mic you got lying around that's decent and throw it on your bass cabinet, and then you'll also have that actual sound closer to the actual sound you're hearing in the room be able to be printed on that track. Yeah, I already did a full rundown of the rig and how everything's set up and, things like that. Yeah, if you can just rewind it a little bit, you'll see about a half an hour ago. So, yeah, it takes some recording is definitely something that takes a while to get used to. See, let me see something here. Well, I mean, hey, I've never had anybody had that problem before. I've never had that problem with them. Hey, I can't. I tried to help you. Yeah, that's all we doing. We don't think you're stupid. We just trying to help you find a solution to your issue. I don't have that problem, so I can't actually say that, yeah, that's the problem. Like, if I run through all these preamps now, none of them are going to sound thin. Yes, I take this board with me. This is a separate little thing. Only this side go with me. See, this is with the IRs. See how much the IR is coloring your sound? Because it's like a speaker cabinet. Now you take that off. The tone is totally different. And this is another thing too. If you're using the complete tone models, like the complete rig tone models, for instance, when you get the pedal, it'll have a bunch of like amps and cabinets modeled together at the same time. When that happens, when you use that in the Tonex stuff and you turn off the cabinet, you're not actually getting the real sound of the preamp. You're getting an estimation of what the AI thinks that preamp sounded like without that cabinet. And it is different than just modeling the preamp by itself. I did notice that with the Tonex pedals, because that's why I don't, if you notice on all my preset packs for the Tonex 1 or the Tonex stuff, I don't do any full rigs. That's for a reason. I wanted just the sound of the preamp head, so you guys would be able to use it as bass amp heads and essentially be able to change your bass amp head on the fly, with whatever cabinet you're using. So, if you use a full tone rig tone model and take off the cabinet sim, all those are going to be way different than it would have just been with the preamp by itself. Yeah, that definitely I noticed that as soon as I got it, trying out some of the stock ones, because even when you hear the preamps they provide by themselves, and then you hear with the cabinet sims or like the cabinet part on, it sounds it's nowhere near as close to what the preamp would be by itself. But so this is with this B15. Let me change that to change that to this. Let's go here. And then we're gonna, so this is without the cab sim. Without the IRs on, because I don't do the cab sims, remember? I create my IRs separately and like custom. And then from there, I combine the preamps and the IR. So ain't no way that Mark Bass 3-pack is a lot of bottom on here. And it really may just be you like Harkey's sound more than those preamps. Like it's a lot of factors in there. But I'm trying to tell you, ain't no way that Mark III, I can just go and pull them out now. Like, they're not gonna sound thin. I don't even make thin sounding presets. Sometimes the only thing I'll do is create a flat one. Now you will find flat ones in there. The ones that are flat is meant to just be the saturation from the solid state preamp with no additional EQ. So basically the company's stock EQ curve, because none of them really flat, except Mark Bass is pretty flat. But when you go into the Mark Bass presets, all of them are gonna have a bottom. See, that's a different sound. That's a whole different sound than without it. So, those preamps and the IRs together sound one way. The preamps by themselves sound one way. See, some of those highs aren't there because that's what a speaker would naturally do. But yeah, I would say, man, also, if you ever find yourself in that situation where it feels like they're thin, yeah, but that's because if you now don't use the ones that are full rigs. The full rig ones, and you take off that cabinet, they gonna sound like crap. That's what we was talking about. That's why you have to use that joint. Like, go to the I gotta pull up the software. Give me a second. I'm gonna pull up the software. But if you go to the search section, like go to the search section and just click on like like the bass amp heads, and then you might have to like click on. I'm guessing you got the signature V2, or the bass one. This one, I think. So with that, go to have it just search for the bass heads of the signature bass collection, and that way all those stock ones, they gave you versions of them with without the cab being modeled with it. Those are much better. Out of those, I like the Ampeg VR joint on there, the Aguilar DB 750, and that Mark Bass Big Bang. The Mark Bass Big Bang joint is actually is fire too. You'll have to dial back the gain and bring up the master volume to clean it up, because it will have quite a bit of grit to it at first. But yeah, you can get some fire sounds with those, or that's the best way to get the fire sounds with those. Cab synth, I don't even use them full rigs, bro. I don't even use them. I just don't like the sound of them. That's why I said I create my own custom IRs. Create your own. Oh, that's something else you can do. If you have a MacBook already, you can it'll be a plugin utility. If you go on the utilities, if you go to the impulse response utility on the, like, you got a MacBook Pro or just like a laptop, a MacBook laptop, something, go there and you can create your own custom IRs. Like, say you have a SM57 lying around, or something like I'm talking to you on, which is RE320. You can create your own IRs, and then bam, you got all your cabinets. Like, so that Fender cab, that Jens Benz 212s I got back there, and I got a Harkey 210 and a bunch of other IRs. Definitely check those. Like, see how you can create your own in the impulse response using that joint. It'll definitely, I think you'll have fun doing that. And you just need to run into the return of your effects loop or your power amp, and then it's going to pretty much sweep some frequencies, and it's going to take pretty much it's going to take like a sonic snapshot of how your cabinet sounds in your room, and then take that and throw it on your joints. Definitely appreciate the sub. Definitely appreciate the sub. And what is it? I don't want to butcher your name, but I want to give you a shout out for subscribing. Neen Glendo. I hope I said that correct. I'm terrible with names. I try not to say them too much. But yeah, in terms of the Tonex ones, I will be transparent in that way. I do not like a lot of the full rig joints on there. I really don't like them. I prefer to have, if you want to get the best results, in my opinion, out your Tonex stuff, if you modeling, like say you have a preamp or something you want to model, do the preamp by itself. And then when you want to do your IR, go do the IR in the Apple impulse response utility, create it in there, and then you got your own custom IR. You got to do more than that, but you can look it up, how to do a custom IR of your cabinet. And, if you have a Mac, you just put it together. It's some stuff on Windows as well that you can create your own custom speaker cap IRs on too. So, don't. I know how they're marketing things. I always talk to y'all about how companies are marketing things. They always gonna give you everything they find amazing about it. But I do find that I like just the preamp by itself being modeled, and then do that. Definitely appreciate you. Yeah, and, you know, Big Son-O, I know, matter of fact, hit me up on Patreon so I can send. I can't remember if the packs you had IRs in them or not. I have one particular one that I use on pretty much everything. Hit me up on there. I'll send it to you if you don't have it already. It's of a Fender 115 Bassman Neo. So the Fender's Pro Series it's right there. My favorite cabinet in the world. And I'll make sure I send that over to you, and you can try throwing that on the different bass amps and stuff if you want that full bass amp sounds. Plus, you know, just quick tip, you never want to run your IRs through your speaker cabinet. That's like running a speaker through a speaker. It just don't sound good. You're coloring it too much. So I don't know if you be doing that or not, but that's just a tip for everybody. If you're running your Tonex into your bass amp, just go to the global by holding down this alt button until, you know, you get to the alternate menu, and then turn those cab sims off, folks. When you're running it through an actual real speaker cabinet. If you're running it directly into a DAW or to the house or something, or, you know, to the PA system, then you leave those IRs on, and they will help get you that speaker sound through the house. So, or that mic'd up bass cabinet sound through the house. You know, but yeah, message me on there so I don't forget, because I'll forget as soon as I get off here. Somebody will call me and ask me to do something, and I'll completely forget. But if you message me on there, I'll send it directly to you. I definitely appreciate your support. You're one of my huge supporters, and I definitely appreciate it. You don't just talk, you buy stuff. You know, and that does mean a lot to me. Speaking of that, shout out to all the Patreon subscribers and, you know, people that have bought preset packs. Shout out to y'all, man. Thank y'all so much. It means the world to me. Y'all have no idea. You know, it may be a few dollars to you, or it may be a lot to you. You know, I'm not sure, but whatever it is, if you trusted me enough to invest in my products and my presets and packs and invest in me in general, you know, I just really appreciate it. So thank you guys so much for always showing me love, you know what I'm saying, on here. So, but yeah, tone. Now, I will be doing, got a couple more preset packs I'll probably be doing soon, guys. Got I don't know how many of you guys use POG 3s or not, but I'll be doing one for the POG 3 as well. So, oh, damn. There we go. That's the only other thing. You got to balance them joints too. See, like that. Right side down. So, overall, just to recap for today, you know, ADSR is attack, decay, sustain, and release. It's pretty much just shaping that oscillator sound, so it's just not like, you know, it could be, or it can be, you know, you can really shape it, the actual sound of it. But, you know, that applies to the filter as well. So, you know, if you have a full featured synth like the Enzo X, Future Impact V4 VIP, you'll have a full ADSR for your oscillators, or your amp envelope is what it's amplitude envelope. And then you also have one for your filter. So, you know, depending on how you set those, attack time is like fading in. Decay is pretty much after it fades in, how long it takes to come down. And the sustain is the level it comes down to, and it stays there until you release the note. And then the release is after you have let go of the note, how long it takes for that note to stop. You know, just think in terms of piano, right? The attack, immediate attack, it's not fading in, but then it decays. See, it doesn't have a sustain level. So it doesn't, when you hit the sustain pedal now, when you release, that's the release of the sound. In other words, you know, so I hit it, it's decay. So now there's no release. See, I let go, nothing. So that's an easy way to kind of hear, you know what I'm saying? People. I know. People is funny. I know y'all. I know some people. I try not to respond to it because I know it eventually become a thing where people just get on here and say that just to be, just to have me respond to them. But I appreciate that. I see it as all love. And trust and believe, you know, I am going to do some streams where I play, you know, do some looping with drums and everything involved, including piano and stuff. And I'm looking into doing some new collaborations with some other YouTubers and just some of my friends that are musicians, having them come in and us just actually doing like an on-camera, a few songs on camera, things like that. So, yeah, you know, we all I got y'all, trust and believe. And plus, I'm going to bring in some way better drummers than me. You know what I'm saying? Bringing some way better drummers than me. Not that I'm the worst drummer in the world, but I am far from the best drummer in the world. You know what I'm saying? But I can do a little something. Win is when I feel like it. You know what I'm saying? That's win. You ain't even subscribed, bro. You got all these demands and stuff. How about you hit that subscribe button? How about you go to the Patreon, become one of the Patreon members, the paid members? You know what I'm saying? You just got demands for free. I tell you when I feel like it. How about that? I'm going to act like you. So, bam. You know, we about to wrap this up. But, yeah, so definitely take your time and really get rid of all the fluff, all the, you know, pretty much make that filter, open that filter all the way up. Take all the resonance out, just make all that stuff, you know, out of your way. And then put your oscillator on, shape that. Once you like how that sounds, then start shaping your filter with the ADSR, and that's the best way I found to go from there. Then you add in your overdrive and distortions or your modulations and ambient stuff. But if you have all that stuff on, a lot of times it's just going to get in your way, and it's going to keep you from ultimately getting to the sounds you want to get to. So simplify the sound, then build the layers of complexity on top of it. And I think you guys will have a much better time with all these pedals, including things like the MXR bass synth. You know, it's not a bad pedal at all. Like I said, I'm not getting kickback to tell you guys that either. You know what I'm saying? I'm just telling you guys based on my experience with it and using it for a while now. It's not a bad pedal at all. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, I'm about to save this little setting I made right there. Go and keep that. So, all right, guys. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Hit that like button before you go. You know, subscribe before you go. Check out the Patreon when you do go. And then